What's going on, Nathan here. So since recently I've been getting a bunch of different comments and requests asking me to actually go over my process of making one of my YouTube videos. And so I thought it'd be a good idea to take my favorite parts of my videos, which are usually like the cinematic intros at the start of them, and to film a behind the scenes of how I make one of these intros. These tend to be my favorite and most complex parts of my videos because I usually have a vision of how I want it to look in my head based off of some inspiration from a song, and then that first playback through while video editing, and most of the time like it comes out better than I had thought it did. That feeling of it like looking really good is just an awesome feeling, and I love making these cool intros that I feel are very like unique, or at least I try to make them unique for my videos. So I have a very cool idea for an up and coming video. It should already be posted by the time you're watching this, and it's actually a review of the Google Pixel 7 phone. So if you haven't seen that yet, I'll definitely link it up here because I plan on posting that first, because this is gonna be like the intro for that video. But this is gonna be a behind the scenes of how I actually filmed that intro. So in this video, I'm gonna cover the 4 main parts of filming one of these cinematic intros. So let's get into the first part of this, and that's gonna be how I think of these cinematic intros. So the first part I want to talk about is my plan and kind of how I get my inspiration for my cinematic intros. And to be honest, it pretty much just comes from songs. Like I'll hear a specific song and then the vision of what I want the intro to be just pops in my head. That's what recently happened with this specific intro in mind. But with my career starting soon, I had a really good idea to start utilizing YouTube's creator music beta and forego monetization on specific videos where I feel like current mainstream music will just fit better or has inspired me more than the free types of non-copyright music such as Epidemic Sounds or Artlist.io. So I recently watched the Kanye West documentary, and it just got me going through his discography again, and I came across the song Flashing Lights. For intros like this, you really only need a clip of like 15 to 30 seconds of a song, and so towards the start of it, there's about a 20-second to 30-second clip of that song, and it just instantly sparked the vision for this. So my plan for the cinematic intro of the Pixel 7 using the song Flashing Lights is I'm gonna have a whole bunch of different types of shots with a black background. So it's gonna blend in real nice. I'm gonna have one kind of key light. I think I might do like a blue light. I don't know what I'm gonna do, just something to kind of give it a rim. And then I'm gonna have just a whole bunch of different close-up shots. I'll have this thing rotating on a little rotating disc a few times. I'm gonna get some macro shots of different parts and features of the phone. And then I also have a new slider I wanna do to get some cool moving shots, add some more movement to it. So that's what I have in my head, the image for it, and I got it all literally just from the song itself. So that's the plan. Now let's get over to the setup. All right, my apologies for the outfit change. It's actually been a couple days since the last time I filmed, but we're back, and I just set this up for how I believe I wanted to look for this intro. And so the first thing that I did was I started to cover my window with this gray blanket right here. You always want to start in like a neutral room, very dark, and you want as much control over your light as possible. So the next thing that I did was I moved this white desk that I actually just had come in from Amazon. It was like a $50 white desk. There's no drawers or anything. Then from here, I also got a backdrop for like a photo set, and I just got it in complete black right here. And so what I did was I draped it over the back of my TV, down over onto the desk, and then you also want to always have a nice gradual arc where like the horizon would be, like if you had just 2 flat pieces connecting. This arc, and then when you put light on it, will give it that like infinity look where like it looks like there is no horizon. So from here, just because I'm in a very tight quarters back at home, I actually had to set up 2 different tray tables just to kind of match the height of this new white desk. And then from there, I put on top of it my new mechanical slider that I just got. This is the YC Onion Hot Dog, and I plan on using this a lot for this shooting sequence right here. So next came my camera setup, and I'm going to be using the Panasonic Lumix S5, and for most of the time, I'll be filming with the Liowa 90mm 2x macro lens, which is only a manual focus lens. I really want to get those macro shots of this, and I love the compression of this lens. And then on my lens, I have a K&F Concept 1/8 Pro Mist diffusion filter, and I like this look, especially for this video I'm about to be shooting, because it really just diffused and softens the light. And since I'll be playing with a bunch of light in this, I just really want that look for this video, so that's why I have that. And then I also have a FieldWorld F5 monitor on top of this just to help me see my shots a little better, but that's my camera I'll be using and kind of the setup with that. So next is attaching my camera setup to my motorized slider, which is super straightforward and easy. And then I also have this very cheap like $10 or $15 like rotating plate, so just pick one up for yourself. It's super useful for little products like this, just to spin and add even more motion. So I'll be using that for some of the shots, and it's also black, so it can blend in very nice with the background as well. And then also for lighting, these are my Govee LED smart light bars. I'm going to use these as my key lights. So they're going to add some very nice lighting to the actual phone itself without lighting up the background, because I want the back to be like pitch black for this. And then if I want to, I also have this light right here. That's pretty much the setup. So let's now get into the actual filming of this intro. Alright, so I hope that this isn't too dark, as I'm just trying to not have my big key light on so I can actually film and talk about my shots I'm going with right now during the setup. So the first tip I want to give you, especially for a product like this because it's so glossy and it's so reflective, is you always want to have a microfiber cloth to wipe off different smudges and fingerprints on it. And you also want, I don't know, a poofer? What do you want to call this? Like an air blower to blow off any dust. So I'm going to clean this real quick because it's filthy, and then we'll get into my first shot of this scene. So for the first 8 or 9 different shots, I just want them to be slow panning shots. Because this first part's slower, I just want some nice shots of some of the features, but some super close-ups of them as well. I think the first place I want to get is with the actual visor bar itself. So let's set that up. Alright, so everything's looking pretty aligned right now, so now I'm going to film my first shot, and this is going to be a static shot. So I'm going to do it in just a couple different variations. So the first one, as you can see right here, I'm just going to have 2 lights slightly behind the phone, and it just gives a nice rim around it, but it keeps the front kind of dark, kind of like mysterious, like you don't want to reveal the product quite yet. Then I'm also going to take another one where I'm going to move the light slightly in front of the actual phone itself. So when you do that, you see it reveals the phone more, and it's like less dramatic, so just gives me more to work with later on. Since I'm already set up here, we might as well do it. And then the third type of shot, I'm going to go back to that first one where it's like slightly behind again, and then I'm actually going to take a third light. I'm going to go above. I think it's going to give a cool look. It's going to give rims all the way around it while keeping the back still nice and dark. So let's get to filming that. So while I'm in this orientation right here, and to save me time from setting this up later again, I'm also going to do one with the slider from going from left to right, and I'm also going to do another one with the plate actually rotating itself. So 2 more variations of kind of the same shot, just to give them all a different feel. Just gives me more to work with later on in post. So let's go do those. Alright, so now next shots, as you can probably see, I had to stack this up pretty high because I want to get the outsides of the phone, including the buttons and the charging port. So because now it's laying flat, I have to get it up much higher. So I want to get a static one of each side, and then I also want to get one of it rotating, as well as with the slider going just straight and forth on each side. So that's what I'm going to do right now, and I changed the lighting, so now the 2 lights are in front, and I'm hoping that in post-production I can just keyframe out the little spinning board. So that's the plan. Let's go do those shots. So now my next few shots are also just super close-ins of the front of the screen. I want to get the bottom, I want to get the middle with the fingerprint reader, and I also want to get the top with the little hole punch cut out at the top right there. And again, I want to just get some stills, and then I want to get them rotating as well, and then we'll go from there with the front of the screen. So since all my rotating shots are complete now, I took away the rotating plate and all the other things, and so now I'm going to be able to get some really cool and clean shots of the phone just on the black top itself. And to add some more depth along with the slider and the panning of the slider, I'm going to add a height adjustment to it. So I'm going to take this box right here and watch what I'm going to do. So when I do this, this motor is actually really strong and it can almost go fully vertical. So one thing you're gonna wanna do when you put it in this position is to then re-level your camera. So you're gonna have to adjust it a little bit, but you're gonna be able to get some really sick shots just with the pan and everything. And I'll show you what some of those look like. So because now I'm adding more movement into my shots, this is actually going to be the second part of the actual intro itself, where the actual bass comes in. And then to match the vibe of the song called Flashing Lights, I'm either flickering that little LED light bar just side to side back there, or I'm going to take actual flash photos with my iPhone. I'm still just throwing around the phone on different angles, getting different kinds of angles and shots with the slider, just trying to build up an inventory of cool shots that I can use for the video, both the front of the phone and the back. So I'm gonna keep doing that. So I just moved my whole setup with my camera back about a foot or so, and this is to get some wider shots now of the whole entire phone instead of just bits and pieces of the phone. I need to get some of these to throw them in there as well. So that's what I'm gonna do, and same thing with the slider. So I'm pretty much just gonna use a slider, get stills with it. So let's get some shots like this now. All right, so pretty much all that's left, I'm just gonna get a couple more like wide shots, and then I think I'm gonna get a couple just really close up, but with a lot of movement, so a lot of pan just from down to up high on the phone, and then I'm gonna call it for the night, and I should be done filming as well, so then I will see you all when I'm editing. See you there. Alright, so now moving over to the laptop, this right here is the actual finished intro that I ended up going with in the video, and actually turned out to be more simple than I thought, mainly because the actual footage was so good. I didn't have to add that many effects to kind of make it stand out. So all my videos I edit on Final Cut Pro 10, it's just what I started using, and it's just what I'm most comfortable with. So the first thing I want to go over are the two adjustment layers that I have on the top right here, and these span across the whole entire intro. And essentially what these are layovers or adjustment layers from a company called Motion VFX. And they just add a couple little effects that I think add something to it. So the top one is letterbox, and essentially what this is are like the cinematic black boxes at the top and bottom of the footage. This is the one I have, and I currently have this set 2x35. I like it because it doesn't take up too much room, but it's still thick enough to make it look a little more cinematic. And then right underneath that, I have the grain and glow effect. And so what this does is it just makes the highlights glow a little bit inside the video. So if I were to turn it off here, it kind of blooms the highlights. And since there's so many shots in this intro with this white going across the camera or the phone itself, I figured that this would just be a nice little effect to like make it kind of just pop a little more from the black background. So that's what those two are at the top, and they span across the whole entire intro. So how I ended up starting off this intro was I kind of wanted to like reveal the phone to like the sound of like lights turning on. So on the beat, I ended up cutting to different parts where more light ends up showing up on the Google Pixel 7. So as you can see here, this first clip, it's just the two edges, and you move over, there's now a light on the top, and move over a little more, and now there's a light on the front, and it just slowly lights it up. And essentially all I did was I just kind of matched them up together, and then I added this constant zoom overlay on top. But you could do this with just a regular overlay, like you don't need to actually have like a zoom one from like a pre-made pack or something. All you need to do is put an adjustment layer, and then you just set it from 0%, add a keyframe, go to the end, set it to 10%, and then it'll slowly and constantly zoom across all three. So like that's how I got this effect. So the next clip I'm actually perfectly happy with, so I really didn't do anything to it. There's enough movement in it between the slider and then the light from the background coming in too. I think it looks really good, so I didn't do anything else to that. So the next clip, I actually did a lot to it to add all the movement to it. So this is what it looks like with everything I did to it. So this is what the clip looks like just straight from my camera. It is actually a completely static shot. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to remove this like little plate, the actual rotating plate itself. So what I did was I duplicated this by holding the option button and dragging up the original clip. And then what I did was I came over here and I added a mask, a draw mask. So I took the draw mask, I dragged it on top. So with the mask, essentially what I did was I outlined the bottom of the phone and then just completely closed it off. So if I were to zoom out right here a little bit, you can see it's closed off at the bottom as well. And what this does is it just erases the bottom plate. And if you line it up perfectly with the bottom of the phone, that's what you end up with. So if you can see the before and after, let me turn off this. You can see without the mask, with the mask, it just gets rid of it. I ended up actually not needing that afterwards with the letterbox. If I turn the letterbox right here, it just actually covers it. So I really didn't need to do that part, but I had done it beforehand before the letterbox. So when that's there now, what I did next was I added a constant zoom. And so that is how it goes from probably 0 to 10%, just a little quick zoom like that. And then I also added in this rotate effect. So it's pretty much the same thing as the zoom. What you want to do is as it's zooming in, you then want to then change the rotation. So at the start of the rotate in, you're gonna come over here, press a keyframe, and then at the end, you're gonna go to the end, change it just a couple degrees, press another keyframe, and so this is what you end up with. It's gonna go zoom in and also rotate at the same time. So that's what that looks like. And then of course the same thing, the letterbox, put that on, and then add like the glow, and then that's the final clip right there. And then for the next clip, it's essentially the same principle as the one I just did beforehand. So let me turn off everything here real quick. This is what it looks like before I do anything to it. And it's just my phone sitting on top of the rotating plate. So again, I wanted to get rid of the plate. So what I did was I drew a mask, duplicated the layer. And then what I ended up doing was just circling. Let me zoom out again real quick. Circling the bottom of the frame. And so when I turn this on, it disappears. And then I noticed that the top wasn't as black as the bottom. So I pretty much did the same thing up on the top. And then again, I just added another constant zoom. I just really like how it's so subtle, but it adds extra movement to the frame. So turn that on and I slowly zoom in with it. And then the letterboxes, and that's pretty much how I made this movement right here. So the next two are very straightforward, and all I did was I just added a constant zoom to them because there was already a lot of movement, a lot of things going on with that light flare in both of them. So this is without the constant zoom. And turn that on. This constant zoom right here is a 0 to 15 zoom, and then with it on, it's just a very subtle zoom into it as well. So the next clip right here, pretty much the same thing. I have a constant zoom, but then I also added two little things just to add some like little corrections to it. So if I turn off everything here, you can see these two little specks of dust that are actually on the phone, and you can see them quite a lot actually. I really didn't like that. So essentially all you have to do to kind of help like minimize this is to just duplicate some layers, and then gonna draw a mask. So what I did was I drew just a little triangle, any sort of random shape, and then you're gonna want to adjust the position on this layer specifically. So right here, once you draw the mask, that's it right there. And then what I did was I came down to transform, and I actually scaled it up to 150%, and then you can move it over. So you see there's the little speck, and then if I come over, bring it on top, it disappears. So I did that exact same thing with this one right here. And so that's pretty much what I did. It's just like a little correction just to make the shot look a little better, a little more professional. And then again, turn the constant zoom, and this is what you get. And then just to go with the beat of the music right here, I just have this regular just position frame where it's just a black frame. So it skips a beat essentially. So the video goes from here, and then it's gonna cut, and then on the drop, it comes in again. So that's what this little space is right here. Again, very simple, very easy to make. So this first part of the intro is before the actual bass drops, and there are a lot more static shots. So either they're just standing still and there's light moving, and it's like a slight constant zoom, which I added in. This is the only shot where it actually has like a lot of movement with my actual slider, but the rest of them are either just rotating or still shots. So that's why I had a bunch of constant zooms, but in this next part, this is where I start using a lot more movement with my actual slider. And so for this, just to add in even more movement, even more speed to kind of get a wider angle with the slider, what I did was I actually added speed ramps to this. So if you come over here, you press Command R on each of these clips, it's going to show you the speed that I increased each clip by. And most of them are definitely sped up, and it's just to kind of make this a little more intriguing, have a lot more movement in the actual shots. That's pretty much all I did. Just sped up the clip, cut right here on the beat, sped up the clip. And if you look, that flashing, that's actually from me. I actually have the actual light. I was probably like flickering it or moving it around. So continuing along here, again, just another still shot. There's another one where I'm just flashing. So this one is very, very similar to the one I did over here, because this one's also laying down flat on the little rotating plate. So if I press V right here, you can see how the plate is there, and I just didn't want that. I just don't think it looks very good. So to essentially make it disappear and make it look like it's floating, all I did was I drew mask. Very simple, very easy to do, and that's pretty much all that went into that clip. And then the next one, just sped it up. Same with the one after that. Again, the flashing lights are from me actually filming it, so that's what's making that effect right there. Again, just a regular clip. So my final clip here, I wanted it to be pretty epic and to kind of just disappear into a flash of light like the song. So there's a couple things I did to achieve that, but the film or the clip itself is actually pretty simple, and it's just from my slider, just to kind of add more motion. You can see a wider range of angles. And then from there, I added on this animation overlay that I got from Motion VFX, just another plugin, and I just kind of labeled it Pixel 7 Google. Changed the color on it slightly, so it comes like in usually like a white, but I kind of changed it slightly bluish. Right there, you can see that, the shadow color, that's what makes that blue right there. Another thing I did was I added this riser right here, and this really just builds up the song. Even though that this sound effect isn't in the song itself, it just kind of builds it up to a big crescendo, and then as soon as it cuts out, I cut the music, and then it kind of just rumbles away. So this was like a perfect sound effect. I got this one from Epidemic Sounds actually. It rises, 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 boom, and then it kind of fades away. And then this is where I then transitioned into the actual video of me doing the review of it. So I've been starting to use more risers, and I really do like how they sound. It definitely added a lot to the song, and it was like a good way to kind of build it up and just cut out. And then so the very last thing that I did was I added this white flare right at the end. You can see right here, boom. So how I did that was, you're gonna come up here to the top left, come down, and you press on Elements, Shape, you're gonna drag this on. And so you're gonna come over here to the top right now, you're gonna press on Shape, you're gonna go to Square, and then you're just gonna wanna increase the size of it. So you're gonna press on the actual composing of it, the next tab over. You should increase the scale, doesn't matter, just enough to cover the whole screen. And then so essentially now it's just a matter of timing, because now it's right there, and I just wanted it to, like, you know, come in nice and quick, go out like a flashing light. So I'm gonna come in, it's gonna come up, boom, and just disappear. And then this right here, similar to this space over here, it's just a black blank screen. I left that over there just to kind of like let the riser go out, settle a little bit before I then transitioned into my actual video. And that is pretty much how I made this intro. Again, I think it came out simpler than I thought it would have. And that's pretty much just because of how much movement I'm able to get in my shots with my slider. So yeah, that's my first behind the scenes I ever filmed, and it was quite difficult because I really don't have like a lot of room in this little room to have, like, you know, the whole like black setup area, to make a black backdrop for my phone, to have my key light, to have this camera set up to film me like the behind the scenes. So I hope it comes out well and you're able to just to learn something. And again, I know it's not perfect and I'm just still learning. I'm not even at year 2 yet of picking up a camera for the first time, so still a lot to learn, but I'm definitely getting better at these cinematic intros, and I'm proud of like the work I'm doing right now. So I really like it, and always learning, always trying to figure out new stuff. So if you enjoyed it, or if you learned something new, then please don't forget to hit the like button down below and subscribe. And as always, have a great day, everyone. Cheers.
Flashing.